Inspiring Our Future Generation by David Toney. I chose to read the book Inspiring the Best in Students, written by Jonathan C. Irwin and published in May 2010. This book helps teachers to connect and motivate students to embrace learning by meeting the students' individual, social, and emotional needs, which builds positive relationships between students and teachers. When teaching principles, every human being experiences multiple influences. Every human being experiences adversity. Every human being has free will, which gives us the ability to choose our behavior despite our circumstances, influences, or challenges. Every human being needs to accept the fact that every single choice made has a consequence, positive, negative, or neutral. When reading about analyzing thoughts, actions, and motivation, I learned that the author uses choice theory. Choice theory provides a common language and understanding for meaningful class discussions and problem solving, as well as a plethora of writing, speaking, and listening activities and assignments. It is comprised of using ideas to create a needs-satisfying learning environment characterized by positive relationships, student voice and choice, and differentiated, engaging teaching and learning strategies, which in turn develop social emotional learning, otherwise referred to as SEL. Next, I learned the 5 basic human dimensions: physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual. Developing the physical being involves providing knowledge and skills relating to overall health, strength, fine and gross motor skills, development, coordination, and athletic ability. Developing intellectual being involves providing knowledge and skills needed for developing memory, learning how to learn, critically thinking skills such as application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, mathematics, enthusiastic, reading, and cultural literacy, problem solving, and creativity. Developing the emotional being involves providing information and knowledge needed to be self-aware, to understand one's emotions, to self-regulate, to restrain impulses and manage emotions, to increase self-esteem, self-regulation, self-motivation, set goals, create action plans, follow through, and self-evaluate to persevere. Developing the social being involves providing information and skills needed for building and maintaining positive relationships, positive interactions with families, friends, peers, co-workers, the community, and society at large. It also provides information to navigate the dynamic and complicated social networks that we all experience. Awareness of others, emotions, empathy, manners, contextual awareness, and communication skills. Developing the spiritual being involves encouraging students to develop a sense of purpose or meaning in life, to connect to something greater than themselves, whether they call it God, Allah, nature, humanity, higher power, or higher power. It also includes the development of one's personal energy, zest, or as the Chinese call it, qi. Having a deficit in any dimension, having deficit in any dementia impacts the others. If you have ever been so physically exhausted that you can't concentrate, you have experienced how the physical dementia can affect the intellectual. Being extremely tired and hungry can affect us emotionally, possibly making it more difficult to be patient or pleasant, which may which may have subsequent negative impact on the social dementia, which affects our relationships with others. A lack of intellectual development can make it more difficult to obtain a well-paying job and achieve financial security, which can impact our self-image, which in turn may make it more difficult to sustain satisfying relationships with others, which regulates to the social dementia, and also it makes it difficult to do all the things like going to doctor's appointments, exercising, and maintaining proper nutrition necessary for physical wellness. If our emotional dementia is not adequately developed, we may lack self-control and/or self-discipline. This deficit will almost assuredly have a negative impact on our intellectual and academic success, which, depending on our ability to attend, focus, delay gratification, persevere, learn, and achieve. Undeveloped or underdeveloped emotional skills, which is an inability to manage anger and stress, also make it difficult to get along with others. Finally, if there is a significant deficit in our social knowledge or skills, we may find it impossible to build and sustain satisfying relationships in our lives. Although all human beings experience all five dimensions, we do not seem to experience each dimension with the same intensity. What some people call personality is in part written into our genes, which gives us our different personalities. That is, our five basic or genetic needs differ in each internal profile. Just as each human being has a unique physical or external profile, each of us has a unique internal profile. Students will participate and learn well when these five criteria are met. Keep relationship between the teacher and the students positive and trusting. The relationships among the students are generally friendly and supportive. Students understand how participating in SEL and character development will benefit them in both short and long term. And last but not least, you model the skills yourself. Pledge to live by example. Always remember to believe in your students. Size up their abilities and interests, and assess how far they could take them in the future if they are developed, honed, and disciplined. Having someone that they respect express confidence in what they can do in time provides the impetus for them to stretch themselves toward new goals of personal excellence. All great people were once young and immature, made mistakes, and embarrassed their mentors, but their greatness eventually achieved made the clumsiness along the way worth the effort of getting there. A student may not ever achieve what you envisioned, and whether or not the student ever does is not important. But what you want to do is encourage students not to sell themselves short of their destinies. Teach them to think in terms of all they can do and be. Be genuine with students. Believing in students, giving them chances, and viewing them through the lens of time. Inspiring students to greatness has to be something that you genuinely and deeply believe. Not all students are destined to be great. This is not to say that all students do not have tremendous future potentials, because they do. But not all will become great. There is no real science to it. I would say that in all cases a certain goodness of fit occurs between the students and the teacher. So inspire the students to greatness. This book should be read by anyone who works with young people and wants to help them develop their interpersonal skills, social, emotional learning, which is referred to as SEL, which I feel is so important to be successful, to be a successful contributing member of society. This book is excellent for teachers teaching grades 3 through 12, but it can also be simplified for the younger children and made more complex for the adults. Here I will show you my reference page and all the sources I used to do this slideshow.